Okay, here, let's see if I can get a camera up there. Oh, look, it's a camera. All right. So, I'm going to do something I've never done for a video before, and I'm going to read this article. The title caught me, and I'm sitting in my car. I don't have anywhere to be right away, so I decided to just do something spontaneous, and I'm going to read through this article and talk about it at the same time I read through it. Dietitians agree, steer clear of the carnivore diet. Okay, as someone who... Oh, what did I do? Okay, as someone who advocates for the carnivore diet, I'm very curious about this one, particularly because there are dietitians who advocate for the carnivore diet. And I can give you some names and photos. I can edit those in real quick over the screen. But that's what caught me, that they said dietitians agree, because from what I see, dietitians don't agree. Here we go. Stake anyone? This insta-famous eating pattern will likely wreak more havoc on your body than it's worth. Lions, tigers, bears, and you? The list of carnivorous animals is long, and it's clear from our sharp canine teeth and primitive butchering tools that humans have eaten meat for a millennia. Okay, so we've got some common ground there. That's going to make this a little easier. All right. Meat provides your body with protein and ample macronutrients like iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. For centuries, it's been the cornerstone of mealtime in many cultures. Okay, I'm going to pause real quick because I actually want to take a look and see who wrote this article, because I forgot to do that. Sarah Garone, NDTR. We're going to have to look up what NDTR stands for later. Just Googled NDTR meaning, and I got an AI overview, which says NDTR stands for Nutrition and Dietetics Technician Registered. It says they're trained in food and nutrition work in a variety of settings to help patients and clients reach their health and nutrition goals. They often work under supervision of registered dietitian nutritionists. It also says that to become an NDTR, you have to complete a 2-year associate's degree or bachelor's degree in an approved dietitian's program. There's a certain number of hours of experience you have to have, and you have to pass a national exam. And you got to complete continuing education courses throughout your career. So it is some career that is based effectively in nutrition. All right. Because of meat's nutritional value, and perhaps as a backlash against today's emphasis on plant-based eating, it's no shocker that some folks are now turning to a carnivore diet. This eating plan is exactly what it sounds like. Okay, I'll pause for a second. Perhaps as a backlash against today's emphasis on plant-based eating. I don't know how many people who advocate for a carnivore diet are doing so because they're pushing back on advocacy for a plant-based diet. I think that they're pushing back against a plant-based diet because they think that it's not good for your health. I think they're reversing cause and effect here. Okay. Anyways, but there might be some people, I don't know. Though there are no gold standard parameters around it, people who are carnivores generally focus solely on animal foods, explains Julie Pace, RDN, a registered dietitian and the owner of Core Nutrition Health and Wellness. The carnivore diet includes only animal products like meat, fish, eggs, and some dairy, and excludes all fruits, vegetables, and grains. It's high in protein and fat with no carbohydrates. That's not totally true, by the way, because there are carbohydrates in a lot of dairy products, but close enough. All right, while eating this way could provide short-term benefits like weight loss, and it may sound kind of badass to eat nothing but meat, experts say it's a flesh-in-the-pan fad most people shouldn't try, and here's why. Okay, here's what's already standing out to me. She's mentioning weight loss and the fact that it sounds cool, but most of the people who try carnivore are doing it because they have other health issues. And carnivore is popular far more for its healing effect on issues other than weight loss. Weight loss is a thing that people like. It's a thing that people care about. But that's not the primary reason that most people do it. All right. So the fact that she's only talking about weight loss right now is a little concerning, that she hasn't really looked into the perspective of people trying this. It's like they're pushing back against the carnivore diet without ever having actually looked into it. Because if they had looked into it, I feel like they would know that, I feel like they would have more to say in this paragraph right here than just it's short-term benefits like weight loss and sounds cool. All right. Here's what the carnivore diet involves. Again, a carnivore diet involves a steady stream of animal foods, hence its nickname, the no-carb diet. Once again, dairy has carbs. It's low carb, but unless you're cutting out dairy, it's not going to be no carb. All right. All meats, including beef, pork, lamb, poultry, and organ meats, are allowed, as are all seafood and eggs. A smattering of dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt are typically permitted too. Okay, I just want to pause and say that while all of this counts as carnivore, some people have more strict versions of carnivore depending on what their health goals are. And so not necessarily all carnivores are actually eating all these things. Some are restricted to a smaller amount of these. Anyways, what you won't eat: grains, fruits, veggies, or sweets. Most adherents say alcohol is also off the table. In other words, it's a limited and very meaty menu. Because of its emphasis on animal products, which often requires a certain internal temperature to be eaten safely, a carnivore diet also involves quite a lot of cooking at home. Okay, certain internal temperature. I thought they were about to critique, like having your meat pink or red in the middle. I think they're just basically saying not eating it raw. It's true, most carnivores aren't eating their food raw. So yeah, you will be cooking at home a fair bit if you do carnivore. Although there are increasing numbers of creative ways to eat carnivore in like fast food places or restaurants, it does involve cooking usually. Okay, you might scramble some eggs for breakfast, pan fry a salmon fillet at lunch, and roast an herb-crusted pork tenderloin at dinner. If you follow the diet, be prepared to spend time in the kitchen. Okay. Yes, here's another point where it shows that whoever's talking about this hasn't actually looked into the carnivore diet, because if they've looked into the carnivore diet, they would know that most carnivores don't eat 3 meals a day. Some do, but most carnivores just eat once or twice a day, and one of the things that we tend to talk about is how freeing it is to not have to cook as much. There's so much less cooking involved. So you're not spending a whole lot of time in the kitchen. I myself eat 2 meals a day. At most, I'm cooking 2 meals a day at home. Usually I'm ordering like carnivore foods out for like breakfast or lunch. I call it work meal because I don't eat it at the same time every day. Sometimes it's a breakfast, sometimes it's a lunch. But usually I'm just like going to Burger King and getting patties or something that's super cheap, doesn't require any cooking. And for dinner, yeah, I'm cooking, but guess what? I'm also getting housework done while the food's on the stove, right? Dishes need to be washed still. Cats need to be fed still. Like, I just have the food on the pan and I do cleaning. I'm not spending a whole lot of time in the kitchen, and it's straightforward because I don't need to prepare a whole bunch of things. I don't need to cut up vegetables. I don't need to also prepare a carb. I don't need to like do all these little things. I just throw some meat and butter on a pan. Super easy. All right, so be prepared to spend time in the kitchen. No, on carnivore, you're probably going to be spending less time in the kitchen. Unless all you've been doing is ordering out, maybe you're going to be preparing to spend more time in the kitchen than usual, but it's not going to be a whole lot of time, most likely. So, I don't know what they're going at here. I'm going to give them a benefit of a doubt and assume that they're just not doing their due diligence, because I don't see any reason to believe that this is just some financially backed shill trying to critique the carnivore diet just because. We're just going to say that they believe the things they're actually saying, and I'm going to show that I'm concerned at the fact that they're not looking into the carnivore diet before they start critiquing it. Okay, how it compares to other low-carb diets. So, is a carnivore diet an ancestral eating plan, and as some proponents say, or is it just the latest take on the low carb trend? It may be a little bit of both. I'm not going to comment on this directly because I don't know a whole lot about it and I don't feel like it, honestly, but Anthony Chafee, MD, he's put some YouTube videos up where he's actually done like PowerPoints and lectures on his case for why humans actually absolutely ancestrally can and have survived on all meat diets. So if you're interested, you can check out some of those. Okay. The carnivore diet is a variation of a keto diet, says Ann Danahy, MS, RDN, a registered dietitian and the owner of Craving Something Healthy. However, it's far more restrictive than keto, low-carb, or Atkins diet because it consists of only meat, poultry, fish/seafood, animal products like eggs, and a small amount of high-fat dairy foods like cream and butter. Okay. According to Danahy, the carnivore diet's extreme restriction means it's not as accessible or modifiable as many other low-carb options with the other low-carb keto Atkins. There is some room for lower-carb plant foods like berries, leafy greens, nuts, and seeds, making the diet patterns easier to follow, more palatable, and healthier because the plant foods have essential nutrients that animal foods lack. Okay, there are two pieces here. First of all, I actually think there's some validity to this. Not everyone necessarily needs to go on a carnivore diet. Typically, carnivore diet is advocated for as a temporary thing, as an elimination diet, and then you can add foods back in later. When you have serious health issues, you may need a strict carnivore for a long time, because those other foods, while they sound healthy, while some people can eat blueberries and be fine, some people actually are in pain and have serious, noticeable health effects once they add blueberries back in. So, take that for what it is. Yes, you can do other ketogenic, low-carb, animal-based options. I myself am on an animal-based, low-carb diet. I don't eat a strict carnivore diet. I do have plants. I just usually eat under 100 grams of carbs a day. And if I'm going to eat more than that because I'm treating myself, I try to make it something I do once in a while. I don't eat more than 100 grams of carbs on an average day the way I used to. So, you don't have to stick to strict carnivore. There are other options. However, the problem I have is more palatable and healthier because the plant foods have essential nutrients that animal foods lack. For that, again, I would turn to some of the carnivore doctors in this space who speak to this more eloquently. I would go look at some of these videos in depth, but there's plenty of content out there explaining why we don't actually need nutrients that are in plants. Whether you believe that or not, up to you. I'm not here to argue that at this moment. Right now, I'm sharing what I'm seeing. I'm not trying to educate you. I'm trying to let you know what I, as an individual, all the learning that I've done, I'm trying to let you know what my perspective is so that you can factor that into your worldview, not to just take my word for it, because this isn't a deep dive, right? If I'd done like a deep dive research, this would be a different video, but this is just a reaction. So this is just what I'm seeing on its face, and it probably requires a little deeper research if you want to get to understand this subject better and find out where what I'm telling you might be wrong or only partially correct. Or where I'm right. So, all right. And that's why I keep referencing you to other videos also. All right. Potential short-term benefits of a carnivore diet. All right. If you believe what you see on TikTok, pause. I don't watch TikTok for carnivore content. I watch my carnivore content on YouTube. It very well could be that the worst of the worst are the ones posting on TikTok, and the best of the best are usually the ones posting on YouTube, because TikTok is usually short form content. You can make longer videos, but YouTube is better for that. So, but anyways, I can't comment on TikTok and what the TikTok carnivore community is like, but I do know what the carnivore community is like on YouTube. Anyways, if you believe what you see on TikTok, you might be convinced that your carnivore diet can steady your blood sugar, balance your hormones, and trim you down for swimsuit season. All this aligns with what I see on YouTube. All right. But according to experts and current research, any benefit of eating all animal products are likely to be modest and short-term. Once again, I'm going to tell you, there are medical doctors, there are nutritionists, there are some registered dietitians who advocate for the carnivore diet. So just saying according to experts and saying current research, the medical professionals and specialists who are advocating for carnivore on YouTube are actually saying that the research shows the opposite. So again, you have to look into that research. Unfortunately, unless you dedicate lots of time to really digging into the nitty-gritty of the research yourself, you're probably not going to come away with definitive answers. I've tried. It's just not feasible. I have a full-time job. I've got a family. I can't do it. What I've tried to shift my focus to is how can I, when I don't have the time to do in-depth research, how do I sort out the information that's out there? And that's what I'd encourage you to do as well. Because I can say, do your research all you want, but I understand we don't all have time for that. So what I'll say instead is be aware that there are experts who are citing research advocating for carnivore and saying that you don't need plants and saying that the benefits of carnivore seem to be long-term. So this is really not showing the full picture at all. There is no one set thing according to experts, and the experts disagree on what the research says. I know that makes it more confusing. I know that might not be what you want to hear because it makes things a lot harder to sort through, but that's the truth. The truth is that the experts aren't agreeing with each other, and the experts are not even interpreting the research the same way or looking at the same research. So keep that in mind before you just believe what articles like this say. All right, anyways, they're going to give examples. Take blood sugar, for example. Some research shows that very low carbohydrates are associated with better blood sugar control. However, the American Heart Association reports that while a low-carb diet that includes plenty of plant foods could reduce blood sugar, a low-carb diet focused on animal foods is associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Okay, so even here they're admitting that some research shows that low-carb diets are associated with better blood control. What they're doing, because they're framing it like this, some studies say, however. I don't think they're saying this is a dicey issue. Here's both sides. Some studies are showing this, but the American Heart Association is showing that. What they're actually doing is the way they're phrasing it comes across to me as the reader, especially if I didn't know about this, I would hear about it this way. What they're saying is the research showing low-carb diets are beneficial are wrong. The only thing that you can trust is what the American Heart Association reports. I would challenge that. How do we know that the American Heart Association is right and the other research is wrong? Okay, you got to look into that before you just assume. You can't just decide. All right, they're picking and choosing who they want to believe. Okay, so, and by the way, there again, medical professionals who advocate for carnivore, who explain flaws in studies that claim that animal foods, low carb and animal based, is associated with type 2 diabetes. They challenge that and they explain why those studies don't work. So again, there's another side to it. There are, again, medical professionals trained to read studies, deal with health and the human body and nutrition for a living, and they're saying that the studies that make that claim are not true. So don't just take this article's word for it. All right, as for weight loss, a 2021 study on over 2,000 people on a carnivore diet found that most were satisfied with its weight-reducing effects. However, the authors noted that more research is needed on its long-term weight loss potential. Okay, so pause there. A lot of diets, when people diet and lose weight, what I've read over the years in different books from different sources is that people who lose weight end up gaining back the weight and gaining back more of it. So already there's a problem with dieting. There's already a problem with weight loss. We need to know how to lose weight sustainably. And what they're saying here is we don't know if carnivore has good long-term weight loss effects. We just don't know it. Okay? This isn't even debunking it. It's not even trying to debunk it. It's just saying more research is needed. So why would this piece of this article shouldn't be enough to put you off the carnivore diet? It's something to think about. Sure, we do have limitations, but this article is trying to put you off the carnivore diet, saying that it's only beneficial in the short term and harmful in the long term. Let me scroll back up to that title just to make sure. Dietitians agree, steer clear of the carnivore diet. So is this a reason to steer clear, that we don't have strong data yet to show that the weight loss benefits of carnivore are, like, for sure long term? That's not a reason to steer clear to me. That's just a reason to say, let's not fully believe in the carnivore diet until we can prove that we can. It's also unclear whether low-carb, high-protein carnivore diets lead to weight loss, or if people consume fewer calories due to restricting so many foods. Okay, so I track what I eat. I don't count calories, I don't restrict myself, but I do keep a log of what I eat every day. I use MyFitnessPal, I use the free version, and for sure I am having fewer calories when I eat carnivore, because on days when I cheat, I can be eating like 3,000 to 4,000 calories in a day just from eating junk foods on top of my food, right? But at the same time, when I started losing weight on carnivore, and I've lost about 35 to 40 pounds, when I started losing weight on carnivore, I wasn't intentionally restricting. I was eating till I was satisfied, and I genuinely was feeling far less hungry than I was when I was eating the way I was eating before. I was eating like 3 to 4 meals a day, plenty of carbs. I was also eating a fair bit of meat, and I also had my junk food on top of it. So there is a level to which you're restricting, but many days I'm still meeting my calorie limits for what MyFitnessPal says I need in order to maintain weight, and many days I'm actually going over that. Editing May here. I think what I was trying to say is that I'm not totally against the idea that it has something to do with calories, but the difference between counting calories to lose weight and doing carnivore is that when you're counting calories, you're often left hungry and unsatisfied, whereas when you are doing something like a carnivore diet or an animal-based low-carb diet with lots of fat, you end up cutting down calories naturally because you're just satisfied and you're not hungry for more. And I'm not going to touch on this too deeply. Again, this is just to open your mind, just to show you what's out there and what you can look into. I'm not trying to claim that these things are definitive facts per se, but there are a lot of people making the case that not all calories are the same, and that what determines weight gain and weight loss isn't about calories, although there is a correlation with calories, because if all food has calories, then yes, there's going to be a correlation. But the way that different calories interact with your body on a chemical level have more to do with whether you gain or lose weight. And even here, they're saying it's unclear, right? They don't actually know. They're just saying it's unclear. Ooh, hey, I can draw on the screen. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Okay, I guess I can just draw and then undo. Anyways, okay. So again, it's unclear. This isn't a reason to steer clear of the carnivore diet. This is just showing the limitations of what we do and don't know about the carnivore diet. Okay, now here's a quote. In the short term, the carnivore diet may lead to rapid weight loss and better blood sugar control for some individuals, says Pace. However, these benefits are often temporary. After all, eating meat and nothing but at every meal isn't easy. Many people find monotony unsustainable. Okay, pause. First of all, yes, when you do carnivore, a lot of times your weight loss is going to be very rapid, and then a lot of people either slow down with their weight loss or hit a weight loss stall. That's normal. There are plenty of carnivores who are giving tips on ways to get around the stall if you're struggling. It often includes cutting out dairy. But either way, you're at least not putting the weight back on when people hit a weight loss stall. And as for eating only meat, many people find monotony unsustainable. When you cut out all sweeteners and all carbs, you tend to stop craving them. Now, I actually haven't done that. Mostly it's for convenience. I'm active duty military. I've got young kids. My life is a little crazy. I don't like how dry Burger King and McDonald's, just their patties, I don't like how dry and dense they can be for every meal. And so I often will get it with ketchup or onions, just because if I'm going to be eating it every day, it's hard to get into that state is what it is. It's hard to quit the carbs long enough to stop craving them, especially when convenience is an issue. So I understand what they're saying here. However, it can be done. It has been done. And I will say that doing a carnivore experiment, because I did carnivore for 3 months before switching to animal-based low carb, I learned so much about food and about my body, and it reshaped the way I thought about food in such a dramatically positive way that even though I am doing animal-based low carb and I'm not sticking to the monotony of a carnivore diet, I really absolutely benefited from trying the carnivore diet for a limited period of time. And honestly, the diet that I'm eating now, like a year or so ago, I would have thought that that was too strict. That would have been way too limiting for me. To go a single night without having my shelf-stable pastries, I would have been so stressed, right? So also, it sounds unsustainable when you're addicted to carbs, but if you give it a try, you'll find out oftentimes it's a lot more doable than you realize. And even if being super strict isn't doable for you, by going through the effort of trying to be super strict for a period of time, it does change you enough that you can still, like, you'll often find it in you to do better than you were before. So, and you'll find that out too. Many people find monotony unsustainable. Is that a reason to steer clear of the carnivore diet? Or is that just a caveat that you don't have to commit to it, right? Many people finding monotony unsustainable doesn't mean you should steer clear of the carnivore diet. It just means that you may end up deciding not to stay on it forever. Fine, so what? It's okay to try things that you're not going to stick to forever. That's normal. You can experiment. You can try things. Okay. The many drawbacks of a carnivore diet. All right. Besides getting tired of surf and turf on repeat, again, if you're cutting out all carbs, that's probably not going to happen. I will tell you that when I'm actually hungry, eating a steak can be genuinely euphoric. Like, I'm sitting there, like, covering my mouth. If I'm around other people, I'm sitting there covering my mouth, trying not to, like, make sounds because it's just so good. And people experience that on the carnivore diet also. When I did strict carnivore, I noticed that when I would start eating, when I was hungry, it was genuinely euphoric. And as I would eat and become less hungry, I'd start to be grossed out by my food. And Anthony Chafee, who's a medical doctor, he does the carnivore diet strictly. He says that the same thing happens to him. So that's a common phenomenon. I don't get that now on animal-based low carb, at least not very often. But when I was strict carnivore, I can tell you I absolutely did not get tired of the same old foods over and over again. Now, the reason why I went to off of carnivore is because I have psychological, psychologically, when I want to celebrate or when I want to mourn, I want to turn to foods that I'm familiar with. My body wasn't craving those foods. I never got tired of actual meats. What happened is I missed using junk food as a way to celebrate or as a way to cope, even though my body didn't feel the need for it. And that was another thing I learned from trying carnivore, by the way. So that's one thing to consider also. All right, many drawbacks of a carnivore diet. You may experience other more serious drawbacks from the carnivore diet. Nutrient deficiencies are one major concern. All right, I want to know what nutrients they're concerned about because, again, as many carnivore medical professionals have demonstrated, and you can look into this, you don't actually get nutritional deficiencies on carnivore. Okay, you may get electrolyte deficiencies, you may get too little fat, right? There are ways to adjust, but you're not going to be deficient in, like, nutrients that you don't have to get your nutrition from plants. Okay. When removing plants from your diet, you'll miss out on important antioxidants to help maintain a healthy immune system and quash inflammation. Okay, again, I'm not trying to prove anything here. I'm just letting you know what information is out there, and then you can go fact check it. But we have to start by knowing what information is out there before we can even begin to fact check. So, antioxidants. The wisdom of the carnivore community is that you don't need antioxidants if you're having low carbs because an increase in carbohydrates warrants an increase in the necessity of antioxidants. And this was something that I learned before carnivore also. I didn't know you didn't need any vitamin C, but Suzanne Humphries, who is not an advocate of the carnivore diet as far as I know, she's done several YouTube lectures on vitamin C. Well, lectures that were posted to YouTube. She did them in person. And what I learned from that is the more sugar that you have, the more vitamin C you need. So it makes sense. All right. And quash inflammation. The carnivore wisdom. Meat is not inflammatory. Carbs are inflammatory. When you're not eating plants, when you're not eating carbs, you're not having inflammation. A carnivore diet is anti-inflammatory, and you don't need antioxidants to quash the inflammation. Also, supposedly, there is some vitamin C in meat, not as much as in plants, but because you're having lower carbs, you don't need as much vitamin C, so the vitamin C in meat is sufficient. Okay, another key nutrient you'll fall short on, fiber. And then it tells how much fiber people need. A true carnivore diet could supply as little as 0 grams of fiber. I'm going to respond to this if they don't mention what I think they're going to mention, but let's just see what they have to say real quick before I get into it. Okay, yes, so I'm going to let them say, and then I'll respond. Carnivore diet is glaringly void of fiber, which negatively affects your gut. Not only are you more likely to end up with constipation, but also low fiber, high meat diets are linked with higher risk of colorectal cancer. All right, so pause for constipation. If you're eating enough fat, you don't need fiber on a carnivore diet. The only people who really struggle with constipation on a carnivore diet, from what I've found and from my own experience and from what people say in the carnivore community, if you're eating enough fat, you'll be able to go to the bathroom just fine. You will have less poop because your body's absorbing more of what you're eating, whereas with fiber, all that stuff that your body can't digest, and so it has to come out. So there will be less poop, but that's not the same thing as being constipated. Constipated is when you can't poop because the poop is stuck. If you're eating enough fat, that won't happen. Most of us have no trouble going to the bathroom on a regular schedule. We feel just fine. If anything, cutting out fiber makes it easier to go to the bathroom. My poops are very bulky when I eat fiber. When I eat a lot of fiber. If I'm eating small amounts, it doesn't make a difference. But if I eat like 1 full serving or more, rather than just eating plants as a garnish, if I'm eating that much fiber, it actually is harder to poop, because now my poop is bigger and it kind of hurts and it's harder to push out. Sorry if that's TMI, but it's YouTube and it's not the same. You don't know me personally. It's okay, guys. All right. Higher risk of colorectal cancer. I don't think I believe that. I want to know how they studied that. There aren't a lot of studies. As they said, more research is needed. There's not a lot of studies on the carnivore diet, so I don't know how they're determining that low fiber, high meat diets are linked with higher risk of a certain kind of cancer if there aren't really studies looking at low fiber, high meat diets. Now, what there are studies looking at, this is according to Anthony Chafee, what there are studies looking at is whole foods plant-based diet versus a crappy plant-based diet that includes meat but is still mostly plants. That might be what they're talking about. I wouldn't doubt that. Sure, I'm sure if you're eating a lot of processed foods and added sugars and you're not eating fruits and vegetables, that you're probably going to end up with a higher risk of certain kinds of cancer. However, is that because it's low fiber, high meat? Or is that because the people who aren't eating fiber and are eating meat are more likely to not be health conscious and are also eating lots of junk and smoking and drinking and all the other stuff? This is I would want to look into that study in depth, and I would really look into some of the medical professionals who are debunking and picking apart some of the studies that are used to say things like this, although I haven't heard this claim specifically. Okay. Meanwhile, carbs are... How much longer is in this article? Okay, all right, we're not too far off. All right, meanwhile, carbs are the body's preferred energy source. Taking them out of your dietary equation could cause mental fog and fatigue. All right, wisdom of the carnivore community. We don't know that carbs are your preferred energy source. We know that your body uses carbs first. We have no reason to know that your body prefers it. There seems to be evidence to suggest that your body actually prefers to run on ketones and your brain prefers to run on ketones. People who do the carnivore diet, their mental fog and fatigue goes away. It goes away. I again, and I'm not even doing strict carnivore, but I'm definitely doing a low fiber, low carb diet, lots of meat, lots of fat. My mental fog is so much better than it was. And for people who do strict carnivore, they're shocked at how much clearer their mind is. Part of my motivation to keep eating better, I one day want to actually do strict carnivore, And one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is that mental fog and fatigue completely clearing. And definitely I'm not fatigued the way that I was. So saying carbs are your body's preferred. So recap. Carbs, your body's preferred fuel source. We don't know your body prefers it. We only know your body uses it first. Supposedly there's science to show that your body actually prefers to run on ketones. So this is an assumption. I don't think there's any science to back this up. Okay, older research. Ooh, okay, big concern first. Older research. If you believe something that is controversial, this is a little bit of a rant. This is more of my personal thing that makes me angry. If you believe something that is controversial and you try to show like science to back yourself up, people who don't want to believe it will use anything they can to critique the validity of your science. And one of the things they'll say is you can't use a study older than 10 years. But if what you believe is the mainstream, you can usually get away with saying things like older research. Okay, let's keep a strict standard. Let's keep an open mind to older research, but let's also realize that the gold standard is research done within the last 10 years. So older research found that when people completely restricted their carbohydrate intake, they performed worse on memory-based tests. All right, they're providing a source. You can go fact check that. I'm not going to right now. This is just a reaction video. But again, it's an older study. I don't know that I, as an advocate for the carnivore diet, could get away with using an older study. I feel like there would be people out there ready to jump and say, you can't use a study that's older than 10 years. Anyways, long-term, a carnivore diet might. Okay, long-term, a carnivore diet might negatively impact your heart health. I wouldn't worry about increased cholesterol and inflammation levels. Danny, he says, the high fat, salt, and cholesterol content of meat and other animal products may also raise blood pressure and increase risk of heart disease, says Pace. Okay, may, first of all, might. Second of all, plenty of carnivore experts, plenty of medical professionals who talk about blood pressure. Literally just go to YouTube, type carnivore diet blood pressure, and then look for names like Anthony Chaffee, Ken Berry, Sean Baker, Zoe Harcombe, like plenty of experts out there. So any claim they're making, one way to fact check it is just to search for that. Okay. Carnivore diet isn't one to sink your teeth into for better health. Okay, that sounds like her opinion from what we've read. It sounds like, and I should explain what I mean by opinion. Okay, an opinion to me is any perspective that you hold. Now, a perspective that you hold weakly is, an opinion you hold weakly is something you suspect or something you imagine. An opinion you hold strongly is a belief. One that's somewhere in the middle that has some evidence for it, but you're not super sure. I would call that a thought, something that you think. They're all opinions, right? But here from the evidence she's shown us, there's nothing definitive at all. She's saying it's not one to sink your teeth into for better health. Let's read the quote. This is just another ultra-restrictive fad diet not based on scientific evidence and may be harmful in the long run. Again, the whole article is steer clear. Okay, it's one thing if she says, give it a shot, we don't know enough, it may do you good, but it may not, we're not sure, that's fine. But she's telling us it's just another ultra-restrictive fad diet. But we don't have science to show that it's just another fad diet. And in fact, again, medical professionals that advocate for the carnivore diet actually do use science to support their position. So that's why I say this is an opinion. Okay, if you'd like to go low carb, consider a more balanced approach that allows for some other nutrient-dense foods. Okay, while I don't think that's a horrible plan, I will say, again, there are benefits to a carnivore diet. You may not realize how sensitive you are to certain plants until you cut them out. You may think that you're eating healthy because you're feeling better, but you may still have health issues and aches and pains and things that you're not thinking about are related to diet because they're just normal, because you're just getting older, because you already eat healthy. I would recommend trying a strict carnivore diet out. Now, before doing it, I would recommend looking into it, looking at beginner tips and things to be aware of. Definitely, if you've been like a vegan for a long time, if you've been low fat for a long time, diving straight in can have risk of like gallstones. You may want to transition. That's why I say look into it first. But ultimately, there is a benefit to the carnivore diet. There's definitely a benefit to giving it out, at least for a trial period. The wisdom of the carnivore community is 30 to 90 days. 90 days is best, but if you can't do 90, then at least try 30. And honestly, even if 30 days is too much, just try 2 weeks. Just try 3 days, right? Do what you can do. But I tried 90. And I'm very glad that I did. And it was fantastic. And it was a fantastic learning experience. And I really advocate that you try it. And if you find that it is too strict for you or unsustainable in some way, especially if you've looked into I'm having X problem on carnivore, because a lot of people have problems on carnivore that people have answers for. So if you're having a problem on carnivore, you can just look it up. Someone will probably have some advice to fix it. But if you still feel after those 90 days that it's too strict for you, then you can try a lower carb, more balanced approach, and just do something like animal-based low carb or something like that. Just something to consider. So, bottom line, there's some truth to this article. There's a lot that we don't know. I'm not saying anything for a definitive fact, but this article is very limited. It seems that whoever wrote it or was being interviewed for it really didn't look into the carnivore diet. They kind of just gave their own simplistic understanding of it and debunked their own simplistic understanding. There's so much to learn, and there are plenty of points that they made that there are medical professionals who push back against. I did not expect this video to be 40 minutes long. Thank you if you're watching till the end. I didn't do my normal introduction because I kind of did this impromptu. I'm still getting the hang of being a content creator. Bear with me, please. I'm trying. I'll get there. But anyways, I'm May Blake. Welcome, truth seekers, to my coffee house for truth seekers, where I try to promote a culture of learning, critical thinking. Oh goodness, I didn't prepare for this. What do I advocate for? A culture of critical thinking and intellectual honesty, where we seek the truth together with our limited knowledge. We try to do the best we can to learn in this confusing world. Thank you for joining. Please consider subscribing. If you comment, that helps my algorithms. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.